right, go Tigers. Good to see everybody today. When you're 5'6", sometimes you worry the microphone's going to be too tall, but I think this is going to work out just fine. It's a tremendous honor to be here, and the first thing I really wanted to do was just say thank you, see some familiar faces from the community. I've long thought that I wanted to live in the South, be in the South, and the main reason for that was the people and how different it is out here than in the West, and that's really exceeded my expectations. So I want to thank you for making me feel as welcome as everybody has, along with my wife, Maureen. We got a lot of advice, on where to live and things to do and places to eat, and I'm working on getting around to all of that. Been a little bit busy for the last 6 months, but I can't tell you how honored I am to be here and just to be a member of this community. And there's very few places in the United States, and I've been at and lived in a lot of places now that care about their university, and there's no place that cares about college baseball the way that this town, this state, and this university does. And that was one of the main things that drew me here. So just want to say thank you. Living up to expectations of the right kind of neighbors, the right kind of people, the right kind of supporters is exactly the type of community that I want to be in and stay at for a long time. So I appreciate that very much. A couple of thoughts, and just I asked Hiller what to talk about. And just this is a big audience, and just kind of getting to know me a little bit. Grew up in a very high standard, blue collar, working type environment. Really small town in Northern California. And when I say Northern California, I'm not talking about San Francisco. I'm not talking about Sacramento. I'm talking about way beyond that. It's like a town of 15,000 people, and then you drive 30 minutes, and then there's another town of 15,000 people. That's where I grew up, and so I feel very connected from a root standpoint of the way of living, here in Louisiana, and it's been very awesome, to be a part of that. Some of those big cities on the West, they're great for finding good young baseball players, but it's not so great when it comes to some other things out there. So I'm full Louisiana. I've survived a hurricane. When I landed, Coach Maneri made me eat alligator. It's like, you can't take this job unless you're going to dive into this thing. So I did that. I spent a little time in the restroom after that, but I'm full on Louisiana. So just a little bit about getting here and the process of why I chose to come here and how things kind of evolved. At Arizona, it's obviously a great program. Went to the College World Series twice in the last 5 years. Had things really, really rolling exactly the way you wanted if you're in a position like me. And there wasn't very many places, and when I say very many, I mean one, that would have moved me from there. I often explained Arizona as that was the best job in the country for me, personally, for me and a lot of things. There was only one way I was going to leave that, and that was for the best job in the country, period. And that's what I view LSU. And that's a big reason why I decided to come here. And the reason for that is sitting right in front of me, and Coach Bertman. So let's give Coach Bertman a big hand. So I'm pretty boring. I'm not what you would call a Renaissance man. I can't do anything well, really, except what they pay me to do well. And so I started in on that very, very young in life, and I got some really good advice from my dad, who was a great role model, terrific worker. I think he could have coached in the NFL if he had desired to do that way ahead of his time. But one of the things he taught me, and I think this is relevant regardless of what your field is find the best people at what you want to do, and then go learn from them. And in some cases, steal from them. And then bring your own personality to that, and then build your organization around a foundation of who are the best at it. So we don't like him as much here anymore, but I pay attention to Coach Saban at Alabama. I hope we beat the crap out of him from this point forward with Coach Kelly. But that's the models for me. And in my specific job, there was no better model than Coach Bertman. So as a leader, as a motivator, as a recruiter, as a builder of a program, I was paying attention to Coach Bertman long before he even knew my name. And it's kind of a funny story I like telling. I hope you don't get mad at me, Coach. But, this opportunity, Coach Maneri was going to retire. And, we had just won the Pac-12 championship, and I had somebody reach out to me, and they said, would you be interested in going to LSU? And I said, are we even having this conversation right now? Like, of course. Like, I told you, like, this is the one of one. And it was because of Coach Bertman. And he comes back and he goes, yeah, I don't know if Skip's going to want him to bring in somebody from the West Coast. They don't know if that'll fit well in Louisiana. And I was like, okay, that's good enough for me, if that's what Coach thinks. And so then we went out and we won the regionals pretty handily. And then we beat Ole Miss very handily in the super regionals. And as soon as that happened, I got a call the next day, and it said, hey, what do you think about this LSU thing? And I go, did we really change his mind? And was very proud of that, and as I've gotten to know Coach, and I don't think there's a better place for me to fit in. And what you'll see, and what I want you to see out of our teams, is a lot of the same things that's probably made you very proud to be an LSU Tiger fan for all of these years, in terms of what that baseball program looks like. And in terms of like messaging today, I'm just going to give you a little bit about what I hope that you will see from our team and our program. I think it's always important, if you want to accomplish something, to have a plan and then have the self-discipline to execute that plan. And the first part of that is recruiting. Hiller mentioned we signed the #1 class in the country for this group of seniors that'll be here next year. I think not naive in terms of who makes your program go, and that's 1,000% players, or the talent in your organization, in my organization, or our organization, the assistant coaches and the players. So we're going to do that really, really well. We're going to relentlessly work at that. Then the next phase of it becomes develop. And when you look at a player that was maybe a freshman last year, maybe a backup player, or a guy that wasn't reaching his potential, my goal is when you come and watch us play this year, you see something different in that player, that every day of their life has been built around developing them to become the best they can be, both on and off the field. And for me, it's never about the coach's knowledge or anything like that. It's, can you make your player a good learner and take his talent and turn that into what I call usable skill. And regardless of your field, if you can get your workers, your employees to do that, you're going to have a higher functioning product. Another thing that I hope that you see is, and this is really hard in this day and age, is the mental discipline to focus on what is important right now. What is the task at hand? And it's very easy, and we're drawn to results, and it's definitely a results-oriented business and a results-oriented world. But I think getting distracted with where you want to go all the time is not the best recipe for success. But focusing on what it takes to get there and what's important right then in that moment is something that I hope that you see. I think in evaluating what we need to do better, the mental discipline, of the team and the organization has to improve. And so every day in our program, we're working on mindset. And so I want you to see a mature, really tough-minded group of guys. And with 18 to 22-year-old males, that's not always easy sometimes, but we're doing our best with it. And then being really consistent. So it's a recruit, develop, win means what's important now, and then repeating that day after day after day after day. And I think the world is very full of average people. I mean, just by your God-given ability, a lot of us are average at what we do, just by the talents that you've been given. I think you start moving into that elite area, which is where we want to go with our program. It's the consistency of doing the things that you need to do to be successful time and time and time again. It doesn't matter if you're a baseball coach, if you're a lawyer, if you're a business owner. Those types of things are going to make you successful. So that's kind of the program blueprint, and then we really simplify it down to three things. And number one is fundamentals, and fundamentals are doing common things, throwing strikes, playing catch, putting the ball in play and taking tough at bats in a very uncommon way, and then doing those things consistently. I want you to see a very fundamentally sound program, fundamentally sound team. Doesn't mean you're going to make mistakes from time to time, but the foundation of winning is all built in small things. And I really, really believe that, and I believe that for the 19 or 20 years that I've been doing this. Secondly is competitiveness. I mean, really, really valuing winning. So if anybody walks into that third base dugout, there's no way that team, that program, that coach, those players value winning the same way that we do. And it means you're going to complete the job or you're going to die trying to do that. And so I like to think that's one of the best parts of my personality. Sometimes it's the worst part of my personality, but when you're in the business that we're in, which is baseball and in the SEC West, it is a necessity. And so I hope that you see that filter in and rub off on our players. I have a saying with them, it's not cool to be cool or act cool right now. And so we're really kind of working through that. So fundamentals, competitiveness, and then character. And that's a big buzzword nowadays in our society. But character is really two things, as I explained to them. It's number one, their ability to make sound decisions. And over the course of a baseball game, and I'm still talking about on the field, our players' ability to make decisions, to be focused on the pitch, to be focused on their job, no matter what the circumstances are, that is mental toughness. And so I hope you see our team play with great character and then be on top of all the other stuff that character entails of doing what they need to do to be on top of that, to be the best version of themselves as a person, student, teammate, player, and all of those types of things. And so obviously I want to win. I want to win a national championship. I came here because of the challenge. I think a lot of people would be afraid, to coach here. And I am not afraid to coach here. I'm honored to coach here. And I just want you guys to know, as a community, okay, as a state, as a city, as a university, you'll definitely get the best that I have, relative to the things that I just outlined. And I wanted to make sure I left a few minutes for questions, because I've learned quickly that LSU people love their baseball. And as Coach has shared with me, sometimes you'll have some, I don't know what you call them in baseball, but armchair quarterbacks, so to speak. And Hiller told me that we might want to talk about the team, and I'm certainly excited, happy to do that and answer any questions that you have. But really just want to say thank you for the warm welcome. I'm honored to be here, and there is no place on the planet that I'd rather be the coach, including the New York Yankees, than right here at this program. Sorry, Hiller, for any Yankee fans, but honored to be a Tiger, and we're going to go for it. So thank you. Yes, sir.
About the pitching staff. Give some commentary on that.
Yes, I do. Very, very excited about that. I think when you look at it on paper and preseason rankings and prognostications are only validation that you might have some good players on your team. You know what I mean? And maybe some things people think what your talent can do. And we're in an interesting situation, probably different than a lot of Coach Maneri's teams and probably Coach Bertman's teams. We don't have a guy that was a guy back on the pitching staff. But what I think we tried to do quickly was to add a lot of depth. And so you may see some longer games this year. I know people don't like hearing about longer baseball games, but hopefully it means two things. Number one, we're scoring a ton of runs, okay, and having a lot of fun, and the music's playing and all of those types of things. And our plan is to use more people than you probably traditionally see. If it takes 5, 6, or 7 guys to get 27 outs, my goal is to put the pitchers in position for them to be successful, number one. And number two is not ask them to do more than they're capable of. And then it allows them to rise up and perform well. And I think we'll probably need a few more guys to do that than usual. Our offense is getting a lot of notoriety, and rightfully so. This is a good sign when I say this, at least in terms of the inter-squad games. I thought the pitching outperformed the hitting. And so I'm excited about that. Yes?
Is there a designated closer?
We'll be one of our best pitchers. I think a big part of baseball is confidence. And we're obviously going to play a great schedule, playing in the SEC and going to Houston and Minute Maid, playing Texas, who's ranked number 1 in the country, Oklahoma, Baylor, Louisiana Tech, very good this year, top 15 program. I think getting wins in close games does a lot to build confidence. And so we'll have one of our best guys always ready, and I think it'll be 2 or 3 different guys doing that based on matchups, left-handed, right-handed, executing a side of the plate, maybe that's a weakness for the hitter, change up versus breaking ball. And what we've kind of laid out to the staff is it's going to be a group of out-getters as opposed to the Friday starter, the Saturday starter, and Sunday starter. We might open up against Maine, and we're playing the same team 3 days in a row, and you might see a Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and we have a tournament the next weekend where we play 4 games. You might see the order flipped, or you might see a couple different guys in there based on matchups. And sometimes my feeling is you have to close the game in the 5th or the 6th inning. And with our offense, that's something we'll look at doing and finding out the spots where winning and losing and the tipping point of that's going to be decided. And you'll probably see our best guy in at that time, and then maybe match it up to kind of finish it a little bit.
What, if any, changes have you seen with the student athletes being able to earn money now?
A lot. I mentioned, Alabama football is, I think they've had the number 1 ranked recruiting class like 5 or 6 years in a row. It's either been them or Clemson, and this year Texas A&M had the number 1 recruiting class in football, and that's 1,000% to do with name, image, and likeness and being able to pay their athletes. And so they have something figured out that they are doing that is giving those players incentive to be able to do that. And so for us, it's only been positive so far. I had one prominent player on our team, made some money in terms of name, image, and likeness, and his dad called me and said, "Coach, I know you're trying to put together a roster. We're going to give you back the scholarship for this year." And so it's a big, wide-ranging thing. I don't think the NCAA really understood what they were biting off, with this, and it's going to cause some issues. But no matter what it's been, the transfer portal, NIL, my job, I can either cry about it or I can figure out how we need to do it to do well for us. And so we're putting some things in place, and in our athletic department over the next couple weeks is rolling some things out to, maybe some of you in the community can help out with that. Yes, ma'am.
You talked about mindset of 18 to 22-year-olds, especially competitive ones, and keeping their heads in the game. Are you utilizing the services of a sports psychologist?
Yes, good question. Matter of fact, this next week coming up will be kind of our first week with them, and that's right where we start. I have a mental performance coach that I've worked with for 16 or 17 years. We'll be out here working with the team, and then a team building group. We talk a lot about development, and a lot of the fall is individually developing the players, and we'll continue to do that. But when the spring turns and you walk back into that locker room, it's all about the team now. And kind of, we talk about taking the selfish jacket off, which is not common for kids nowadays. And players that come to LSU. The players that turned down a professional opportunity and decided to come to college, they think about themselves a lot. So it's unnatural to get them to be a good teammate. So we're going to spend a lot of time on that leading up to the season. And hopefully you see a more unified team as well. Yes, sir.
One of your predecessors had a kind of a mantra that he used called "hold the rope." Do you have a mantra-like thing like that for your character and development that you just talked about?
I think that is special, and I have a good story about that. I told this at the press conference. I was studying Coach Burtman as a very young coach. I knew I wasn't going to be a pro player, and got right into coaching, and I had this Connie Mack team, 16-year-olds, and we were trying to win the state championship, and I legitimately stole his story about holding on to the rope and the catcher coming out and pumping his fist in front of and then the shortstop doing it, and then the first time you won the SEC, coach, I think, is when that story kind of manifested itself. So we kind of made that our thing. So like I said, I was very good at stealing things as a young coach. Coach was the first guy I stole something from. But what I want you to see in really in terms of that, it's more of a foundational building blocks and I mentioned them is the foundation of it will be fundamentals and being very solid fundamentally. Like that's like the legs, and then the competitiveness. Then it comes to competing. That's like the middle of your body, and that's like the heart, and then character, and that's your head, because that has everything to do with making quality decisions. So if you see anything out there like that, it'll be built around those three things. What I've done with mission statements and those kinds of things in the past is we kind of come up with one for the year, because I want the players to take ownership, because the program's always going to be the same, but sometimes the challenges and the journeys are all different, and I want the players to take ownership of that. And we haven't talked about, are we gonna do that this year? I'm gonna kind of see if it, comes about as we get into some of this team building stuff. Yes, sir.
Coach, what do you think your greatest challenge this season, if you could get rid of it, what would it be?
I'd love to play every game at home. Because I hear you guys are known to yell at the umpire from time to time, which you have my full permission to do if we get a bad call, anytime. No, I mean, I see Greg Sankey, the SEC commissioner, on TV all the time, and I'm sure he's not in charge of baseball schedules, but we play some programs that were pretty good the last couple of years, all on the road in one season. So pack up your RVs, your carts, and help me ambush those stadiums. Where like you go to Arkansas and you go to Mississippi State, it's like the movie Rocky IV. I don't know if any of us remember that, but when Rocky went into Russia and beat Ivan Drago, it was like him against the entire USSR. Sometimes, and Coach will tell you, that's how SEC baseball feels, but I can't wait for that, honestly. And really looking forward to going toe-to-toe, with those teams.
Coach, as you know, there are a plethora of new coaches at LSU, and my question is this: is your time spent solely on your particular sport and also the other coaches, or is there any opportunity for you all to spend time together and to encourage each other and build off of each other?
Great question. First off, I'm honored, to be in a list of the coaches we have now. In terms of Coach Mulkey, there's nobody better on the planet at what they do than her. Like, I walk in the room with her, and I stand up straighter. You know what I mean? True story. Coach Wade's obviously doing a terrific job with our basketball team. Just hiring Brian Kelly. Doing that at Notre Dame, I think it's really cool that he's coming to LSU. That's one coach that's probably dealt with a place that has had expectations like here, and I think he'll be really prepared for that. So I'm on both sides of that. I make no mistake, and I'm sure the other coaches would tell you, I want us to be the best program on campus. I'll look you in the eye and tell you that. Matter of fact, it's kind of funny now, but it wasn't probably funny to everybody here at the time, but we lost the opening football game to UCLA. I'm sure you guys remember that. And then I heard our players talking about it. We were having a team meeting the Monday morning after that, and I was like, "What are you guys talking about? You're at a baseball school." And they're like, "All right, we got it. You know what I mean?" And so I went to the South Carolina women's basketball game last Thursday night. Great competitive game against, they're the number one ranked team in women's basketball, and that's awesome. And we'll definitely be pulling for all of those teams and wanting to set the standard at the same time. In terms of getting to work with, talk to, and that's a pretty cool dynamic, to be a part of with some of those other really elite coaches. Yes, sir.
So have you stolen any of Skip's Mississippi State stories?
Yes. I'm not the quality storyteller that Coach is, but I heard something he used to say in recruiting speeches that I'm gonna say for you. He said, "Yeah, this is how we recruited against Mississippi State. There was a tornado that went through there, last week. Terrible, but it actually made $5 million of improvements to that place." So. Yes.
Two questions. One is, do you recruit differently? You spent your entire career on the West Coast. A little different style, at least we hear, a little different style of baseball there. How does that affect the way you recruit here? And as a follow-up to that, what are the challenges in building your roster relative to the limitations the roster spots available?
Yeah, no, great questions. I think good baseball is good baseball. I do believe the West Coast versus the SEC, Big 12 comparison is a little bit overblown. My goal is to build a really well-rounded team where we're not, pinched into one type of play. That if it's a day game or a night game, doesn't matter. Big field, small field, doesn't matter. Wind blowing in, wind blowing out, doesn't matter. That we have a complete arsenal to prevent the team from scoring runs and the complete offense to be able to score runs. And so I've brought some things that are definitely different than have been done in the past here, and in terms of maybe how we're going to manage the strike zone, what our approach is going to be at the plate, how we're going to create offense. And at the same time, we're going to take the best parts of the players that we have here and utilize their skills. And trust me, I've never not high-fived a dude, after he hit a home run. So I'm all in on that. In terms of challenges, I think, and Coach and I were talking about this on the way over here, is the biggest challenge is the Major League Baseball draft. And recruiting, when you're recruiting elite players, to get them to understand the value of the experience that they would have playing in Alex Box Stadium for 3 years, going to the Cape Cod League, playing for Team USA, a chance to go to Omaha, and the development that they're going to go out way more prepared as a 21-year-old man as opposed to an 18-year-old boy signing a pro contract. Sometimes the only thing that changes that is money. And, so I've come up with some pretty good arguments of why it's a good idea to turn down $2 million and come to LSU. So if you guys got any more to add to that, then I'll take it.
NIL, yeah.
There you go. Absolutely. Use it as a solution instead of a problem. Yes?
Coach, can you tell us about the names we may not be familiar with yet that are really going to excite us come spring?
Yeah, I love talking about our players. I think the key to this team's success will be the improvement of the names that you do know about. And I think I've always had a lot of success with when a player goes from their first year to the second year, they improve. And so, everybody knows about Dylan Cruz. I mean, that dude is special. Like, the first question I asked Scott Woodward is like, this dude is not a draft eligible sophomore, right? I get to keep him for 2 years. Trey Morgan, terrific player. I've been very pleased with Cade Beloso, his improvement. I had kind of a tough year last year. We made some immediate changes to some things he was doing, had a really, really good fall. I think he'll complement some of those higher name guys as well. Cade Doty, in my opinion, is the best player on our team that people don't talk about nearly enough. I think you'll see a really good season out of him. And some of the new guys, I mean, Jacob Berry is a player from Arizona that transferred with me. He was the National Freshman of the Year last year, switch hitter. It'll be good to have him and Dylan hitting, side by side. And then Tyler McManus is a catcher transfer that we brought in. She's from Slidell, Louisiana, and graduated and had an opportunity to get him, and the catching position was something we needed to upgrade, and he had a nice fall for us. On the pitching side of it, again, it's going to be strength in numbers, I think, is what you see. We needed to get some left-handers. There wasn't any on the roster, or not enough, that's for sure. So Riley Cooper is a big old boy. He's like 264 pounds. So if you like the way he pitches, which you probably will, and you want to bake him a pie or something like that, like, make sure you check with me, because he'll need like 3 of those things. And then Trey Schaefer is a left-handed pitcher transfer from southeastern Louisiana who had a really good career there. He was the preseason Southland Pitcher of the Year last year, and we actually faced him. They came and played us at Arizona. He's got a good arm, and we're able to add him too. So I'm excited for you to come back to me like 6 weeks into the season and go like, well, I like this guy, because I think it'll really be about the sum of the parts, kind of team.